Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. I am the League Dad, and unfortunately, Alistair is not with us today. We have to record this a day early because I'll be out of town, but it's still no excuse, Alistair. If you're listening to this, which you should be listening to this, no excuse, man. Like, how you just should always be on call, ready to go. Am I right, Kevin? Am I right, Mitchell? Like, that's.
Yep.
Anyways,
I
come late to today's because of ARAM, but I agree.
Hey, at least you're here, my friend. At least you're here. You know what I'm saying?
We got it.
Well, I do have Kevin and Mitchell. I got to check out how you guys are doing. Kevin, how was your weekend? Did you have Juneteenth off? Hopefully you did. And, did you do anything fun this weekend?
My friends at Facebook didn't have it off, but I had it off.
Oh,
I made food with a friend. She came over. We made spam and soupy and some like veggies, like bok choy and stuff like that. So it was good. That was fun. Played with the cat. And then other than that, just a chill weekend. I'm really happy that it was a long weekend.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm glad. I'm surprised Facebook didn't have Juneteenth off. That's kind of odd for a company like Facebook. Oh, you're not. I mean, you did have an inside look. You worked there, so I'll take your word for it. Mitchell,
I worked at Walmart. Walmart didn't have it.
Oh, that's right. Walmart. That's right. Okay. That's right. Walmart. Okay. That's right. All right. Well, Mitchell, how are you doing? We got to play a lot of ARAMs earlier. That was fun. But besides that, how's life?
Life's good. I watched all 15 games of LCS just full straight. This weekend was like freaking my birthday. It was awesome.
Nice.
And I had today off, so no class, no boot camp, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Otherwise, pretty good time. I don't know. I'm going crazy, so I'm trying to write a blog. We might hear about it later, but I'm just gonna leave it mysterious for now.
We won't spoil it.
We'll talk about it later.
I got a little inside sneak preview. I was excited about it, but hopefully that can develop so that we can announce that to y'all because I think it's pretty cool. Well, let's talk about week 1 of the LCS. I know I was the one last week that was like, I'm not even hyped for LCS start this split. And in the Discord as the games are going on, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome and exciting and hype. And I do gotta admit. Every time, man. I doubt it. But, I think, Mitchell, you said it best. I think having the crowd back really does add stuff. But also, there was a lot of interesting things to watch this week. And it just unfolded, like, in a way that I thought was pretty exciting. So I want to get your hot takes. Maybe, there's several. And I just want to see what your biggest takeaway for this, week 1 was. There were plenty of storylines to build off of, but I'd like to see what you guys come up with, and then we could just talk about it as you guys think of them.
So my hot takes are Liquid's first week was really easy, so don't take that much from it. But them finally all inning on a strategy of let's play around Hansama, weak side top is really good. I think that League has proven in modern League, if you have a play style and you get lucky, like you probably will like go far, right? And that's a lot better than trying to just do everything, which NA top teams are always like, we could play every style, and then they just crap at every style. They're just like a B tier version of the Korean or LPL style or whatever. Usually the Korean style, right? So I'm happy for it. I'm glad they're playing fast games. So that was nice.
Yeah, I have to admit I was laughing because Mitchell last week said he was kind of a secret PoE lover, and we all kind of laughed at him a little bit. I think I was telling the guys here before, I was like, man, I think I'm topping him because I think I might be a secret Hansama fanboy. That guy is smurfing on some ADC. As far as his play, I mean, I thought it was really good. I thought that strategy that they did do was really neat. But Mitchell, I know you had different thoughts on Team Liquid, so I'm excited. I got to get this out now. I need to hear your thoughts on them.
All right, you want to hear about Team Liquid right
Yes.
now? I mean, okay, yeah, they're beating down on lower teams, and if I'm being honest, like I think they're really smart and consistent, but I was pretty sus about their mechanics. First off, the flash E from Bjergsen just completely whiffing. That was hilarious.
That was funny.
That was hilarious. I'm pretty sure Bwipo, like whenever there was a team fight and he was on Swain, he didn't actually land his E. He just whiffed it. And it's all these little things that like, sure, you guys are so far ahead and your macro is so much better, but against better teams, against international teams, which is always been Team Liquid's goal, is winning NA is second to doing well internationally. I mean, you just can't do that stuff, right? You got to hold your E, you got to land it. Like, there's just no excuse or option other than land your abilities. And I was just like, they beat up on a lot of teams that were a lot weaker. C9 has probably the worst bot lane in the entire league right now, and I'm not impressed. Don't get me wrong, right? If they're saying, hey, we're focusing on Hansama and weak side top, this team's going to Worlds, right? Like, this team is that good that if they focus on that one play style, they will trash the most of LCS, and they're probably going to go pretty far in playoffs, and they're almost guaranteed to go to Worlds, right? One of their biggest things was they were so inconsistent and wild and weird last split, doing all these different styles, having 20 unique picks in the top lane. But if they focus on this, yeah, I mean, they're gonna go to Worlds for sure if they focus on Hansama bot. But like, are they gonna go any further? I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem like they have the mechanics right now. I don't see the super clean, crisp mechanics that I expect from a team that, with this level of players, I mean, if they want to do well at Worlds, right? Every team is going to be on a higher level macro, on a higher level mechanically. And if you're just whiffing stuff in NA, I just don't have a lot of faith in that.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, one of the reasons I am hyped because I think when you look at them comparatively to the NA LCS, they are by far, like, to me, looking like the best team. I know this is an overreaction, and I said I wasn't going to do that because it's week one. And they didn't play easy teams. Kevin, don't you shake your head at me. This is what I do, right? But look, I think that
I'm not sure about Liquid. This week, they are the best team in the league.
I think I
Let's
even
go,
said
3-0.
even if they played really well, I wasn't going to get hype on them. But look, man, I think that just first of all, I watched their docu-series. I forget the name of what it's called, but you know, where it follows them around or whatever. And they had boot camped in Korea, and just watching that episode, it's clear that they are all very hungry to, you know, compete internationally. That is their big goal. And I think I have to agree with your take internationally. I do think also, you know, domestically, I think this is guaranteed 1 or 2 for the end of the split. They're in the finals, in my opinion, and it's either they get first or second. I think first. But my question is, you're right, like these solo laners in Bwipo and Bjergsen, because I think their bot lane can compete. I still think maybe they're underfavored against some of the really top bot lanes, but I think they can hold their own. Hansama, I think, is peaking right now. Like, he's playing really well. Maybe he can even be better. Core JJ still always really good. But you're right. Those solo lanes, can you see them competing against a Zhao Hu or something like that? Like, it's just not gonna look like it, you know, could happen, you know? So I don't know. I'm hoping for the best, but did you have anything to say? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, just to go on Team Liquid, just so I don't seem too much of a harsh person. I mean, they have like a world-class jungle support combo.
Yeah.
Like that stuff is really really good. It's always been good, even from last year. So, like, I mean, this team's gonna do stuff internationally. They're gonna look decent, right? But it is gonna be those things where it's like it comes down to the mechanics that decides the game. It comes down
Yeah.
to mechanics that decides the team fights, and that's where I think they're just gonna continue
Yeah.
to lose out.
I think you're
So
right.
I don't know, man. Bwipo, Bjergsen, like, just you need better hands. I don't know what it takes. Maybe get some like robot hands, get some surgery. I have no idea what it takes. You guys are old, but you gotta figure it out because I don't know, man. I can't, like, it pains me to see them stomping these games so hard,
Mm-hmm.
and then they just whiff their skill shots, and I'm like, they I can't. It sucks they're getting away with this. They're not gonna get punished, and they don't learn, and then
Yeah.
they don't get better. So
I'll add in, like, I think Bjergsen had a good weekend in terms of stats. Like, he was 13-0 and 18. I think a lot of people have been parodying that around. I mean, he got to farm a bunch of kills on LeBlanc against a really easy team. It was against
it was
C9
C9
the last
in
game,
their
right?
turbo terrible bot lane with Twitch UV.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
like, that happened. I will say, like, I think Whippos looked better. Like, I just
Yeah.
think that him playing a defined role, like, I think he can compete. He went to World Finals, and he has been around and competed with. The only person I've ever seen Whippo get turbo gapped by was the Shy.
Yeah.
And the Shy turbo gapped everyone at that tournament. Like, besides, like, maybe Smeb in some of those games, right? But it was still, like, one way or the other. So I think he'll be fine. He has shown that his weird way of playing League is very effective against Asian teams, and I'm actually excited for that. For Bjergsen, I have never seen him do, like, at the expectations I have for him internationally, and I cannot give him credit for that until I see it. Like, I've seen him be, like, decent, Like his highest was decent, but he was like MVP of LCS at that time. So like, I am worried about that, but I think the team definitely has the right amount of like hunger and like there's the right people there to make this like a special team. Whether or
Mhm.
not they'll hit that peak is honestly dependent on if they like get tilted in playoffs. And if they get tilted and get like third seed in playoffs, they are not the type of team who will make a miracle run at Worlds. They're not like C9 where like
Yeah.
getting third is like, yay, we got in through the gauntlet. Nice, let's go get to semis, right?
I
Team
actually would
Liquid would not
almost
do it.
I would almost rather that happen though. I would almost rather like this Team Liquid team come in as like a third seed because whenever our first seed comes up, they always get super screwed over. They get like every year Team Liquid has gotten first seed and gone to Worlds, except I think the last 2 years. Um, and even in the last 2 years, they just get these giga hard like groups. It's like
Actually, true.
the one year that Team Liquid made it to finals at MSI, you know what they got? First place going into groups. They got Danwon and IG as first seed. It's
Oh
like
jeez.
what? And then they got an EU team also, and it's like I don't know, man. I feel like first seed for NA is just you don't want to be there. I think you want to be
Curse.
third seed, be in that Cloud9 zone where you just squeak into quarters for no
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think the one good thing is that if they do hang on to this identity of like, feed through bot lane, and honestly, that seems like a good pick. Meta wise, it fits really well. They have the resources for that because you're right. Like even if Bjergsen is playing okay, he's unproven internationally. Bwipo is proven internationally, but sometimes he can be a little inconsistent. So all I'm saying is that I think if that's their identity for this year, then I think it's a good one. I think it fits them and it's one they can bank on. And hopefully they'll get enough reps in just playing this style and not having to experiment too much to by the time we get to Worlds that they've kind of honed in on it and at least lean on that strategy, because last split we did see them try to experiment a lot with the top lane picks and it almost seemed like they tried to outdo themselves every week and they were really just trying off the wall stuff. I'm hoping that they reel that back a little bit, just because now it's summer split, and after summer split it's Worlds. Like I think it's time to start dialing in. So that's what I'm hoping for, that's what I'm looking forward to, and I'm hoping that they stick with that. Let's move on to a big surprise for me. Actually, no, Mitchell. Let me get your hot take before I say mine. We heard Kevin's. He
My
talked about
hot
Liquid. Yeah. Let me. What was your biggest takeaway, I guess, for this week, or storyline that you want to talk about?
I kind of mentioned it already, and this is a negative one, as I
Okay.
tend to go to. But C9's bot lane is
Ooh,
easily the
yeah.
worst bot lane in the entire league, like hands down, bar none. It's not even close to the next bot lane.
Mm,
Um, like you give me any other bot lane in this league, I think they beat King Destiny. And to go on to that farther, I think that on this podcast and in this sort of community, we talk a lot about how we want to give amateur players, academy players, NA talent a lot of chances. You know what? Destiny has had so many chances. This guy has
yeah.
had a ton of chances, and I'm over it, right? It's gotten to the point of like, Fake God, he got a lot of chances. Golden Glue, he got a lot of chances, and they're both gone. And I think that's how it should go. And I think they probably should get less chances, right? Two chances. If you look bad both those times, I think that's it for your career. It should be, at least in my opinion. So for King, he's never gone a full split, but this is his second time coming into a top tier team, and he's been on academy for a long time. He still looks like he either has terrible stage fright and he can't play the same as his academy level, or there's just that much of a gap between academy and LCS. Whichever the case is, I mean, people say he's not ready for LCS. I'm just gonna say it in the harshest way possible. He is not LCS caliber, period. Um, and you know what? Berserker's coming back. I think League Dad, you confirmed it, right? So we
Yep.
won't have to see him anymore. But oh, I hate to say it, right? When it comes to NA talent too and NA amateur, you have to be harsh and you have to say, hey, these two guys, they can maybe Smurf Academy for the next couple years. C9, you could keep Smurfing Academy with these two players, but they're not going to break it into LCS. I don't think that anybody's going to pick up King unless they're bottom tier org, and you should just move on. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's rough. to say. But
Yeah, no, I mean I think that's fair, and honestly, it just kind of sucks for C9 that the first week was a super week, and they have to play 3 games. But I did see a tweet of Berserker taking a screenshot of him landing and saying that he's ready to compete in LCS, and Jack retweeted and was
Thank
like best
God.
news ever. Yeah, so hopefully, I mean, I'm
Oh,
hoping,
he's
I'm
definitely
hoping,
excited.
yeah, I'm hoping next week. I don't know if it works that fast, but that would be great if he could get in because this obviously was not the C9 that we're expecting. And we really want them to get situated right away because this did not look good for C9. I mean, so bad. And it kind of ruins. I mean, even though Jensen and Fudge still played really well, I think nobody's going to doubt that. It still kind of ruins their return, right? And I think even Jensen tweeted like, what did he say? Oh, 3 star. What a way to welcome back to the LCS or something like that. Like it's a sucky return, but talk about Jensen a little bit because we were waiting on this guy, and he did perform pretty well. I mean, I think pretty much as expected. I was a little happy that Bjergsen got the better of him in their matchup, just because that rivalry runs deep. Yeah, I know it's not fair.
Corner J versus King
Yeah,
Destiny.
it's
That's
not fair. Yeah,
That's a
but
massacre.
talk a little bit about his return and what you thought about him, and even Fudge, because Fudge's return back to the top lane was pretty good too. So, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think Jensen had a pretty solid return. I think his first game, he was playing Victor. He was pretty dang good. Like, against EG, it went to 45 minutes, which is, I think, the longest game this split. And, like, I thought, other than the time he got sniped out by the missiles, which, like, yeah, okay, it's quirky missiles. It can happen. It's a fast ability.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you're not on a mobile carry. Yeah, I think his mechanics were on point. I thought his laning was really solid. He was, like, he definitely showed some class versus Jojo Pian, despite the fact that like you have just a bleeding bot lane in almost every game. Yeah, he did kind of get clocked by Bjergsen and Co. But like, what are you gonna do as a laner when like bot lane is just giving 2 kills to your mid laner? Like he roamed correctly at the right time, and then bot lane just dies double
Yeah.
kill. Bjergsen collects it. Like it wasn't free, but like Bjergsen didn't have to work that hard for it. Like it's clearly they were just getting outclassed and Jensen had to pay for it. So I think Jensen had a good return. It sucks that they had to play against EGC TL week 1, and then like
Yeah.
now Berserker's back because now we're just gonna have to wait half a split to see it again.
Yeah.
I will say that Fudge has been looking pretty decent as well. That everyone's gonna probably talk about that Fiora play against EG.
Oh my
That was
Yeah.
That's
dude,
disgusting.
that was sick. Like it's been a while since well, that's not been that long, but like it's basically like the Danny play from last split, I guess.
Yeah.
And then now we get this play. You know, I think that was really good. He hasn't looked as good on his tank play, I would say. Like his Ornn was it was there.
Yeah.
They just lost, so it's hard to tell. But they lost to Golden Guardians, guys. So it is a little
That's
concerning.
bad.
Yeah, right. Because this was the problem they had before. Like Summit couldn't play Ornn. And I'm like, I hope Fudge can play tanks correctly and like be a carry player like his Aurelia, which he was like really good at when he pulled it out in lock-in last year. I really hope he can do it on his other characters. His GP was fine. I don't really like Triforce Ma and just LDR, but you know, sometimes you have to build defensive when you're getting completely bodied. So
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, I definitely think for that C9 game, like the thing that sticks out to me the most was like Bjergsen's bot lane. They get the stun on a Yumi that's attaching to a Twitch, and Jensen's just like, I'm a Corki, man. They have a LeBlanc. Like, what am I even doing down here? What is life? So it's just unfortunate. Like he's I mean, I don't like obviously Corky's always been a decent counter pick because you can take Hex Drinker, but it just feels bad, right? It's like I'm taking Corky into Bjergsen's LeBlanc, and it's like I actually just have to play in the back foot until I scale. And there's just no agency, right? You don't get to do much until the later stages of the game, but you already lost because your bot lane lost.
Yeah.
And then you go back to game 2 against Golden Guardians, and I thought that it was a blind Yone pick. I thought that was so cocky. I did not like that at all. He blinded Yone in the first round, and I thought that he thought he was just gonna lane gap the crap out of a Blaze Olive. And a Blaze Olive is not a pushover. Like you can't just pick anything and hope to win. So I've always just hated that kind of stuff. Like if you are the better player, which everyone is probably going to be at the consensus that yeah, Jensen's better than a Blaze Olive. Don't disrespect him. Just play 100% so you beat him 100% of the time. So I actually really didn't like that from Jensen in game 2 against them. And then um it does feel like also there's not a lot of cohesion between Jensen and Blabber, which is to be expected. He just joined the
Yeah.
team, but Blabber is in a different universe. He's just playing a different game. He's mentally checked out. He's flash engaging in at the weirdest times just to
Yeah.
throw the game for no reason. He's pathing away from his Fiora top lane, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, these are just all the wrong choices. You're just making all the wrong choices to win this game. Like, don't path towards your crappy bot lane. Path towards your Fiora. Path towards your GP. Get, camp your Yone mid who blind pick for some reason. Like, it just feels like they need more time to get together, and it does feel like they're messing up some of the simple things, right? Don't blind pick your Yone. Don't flash in randomly onto a Wukong. Like that Wukong got so much value when Volibear flashed in.
Yeah.
So I think this team needs time, and I wouldn't be surprised if they squeaked into playoffs even lower than what I was saying, right? Because I remember I was like, yeah, first or second in the regular season. Oh, Berserker's not here. Okay, they're going to be much lower down,
Yeah.
right? Maybe like third, fourth. I think they might even be lower down, right? Like this is a rough start, and unless Ven and Berserker come in and really revitalize the team and change everything up, I still think they're going to be dropping some games and looking pretty awkward. I still think this team is gonna probably do pretty well once playoffs comes around, but like, yeah, there's some really stupid stuff this team did this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, next week they have Dignitas and 100 Thieves. So hopefully, Dignitas should quote unquote be easy.
They should win that. If they
They
don't,
better, if they don't, that's really scary because, 100
scary.
Thieves, they could lose that one as well. So you definitely don't want to be starting off 0-5, for the split. Even if we do know that there's a high probability that they'll do well once it gets to playoff time. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, we'll get to see that as early as next week because any longer might be too late to really get clicking. Shall we talk about CLG to the moon? Because I don't really know what the heck happened there, but I like it. I think I put in the Discord, I was like, am I a CLG fan this split? Like, holy crap. Like, Mitchell shaking his head no, but I just
like weekend, not the split.
I mean, I just thought like, first of all, they have sucked so long that it was great to finally see them. I think they said it was their first 3-0 start in like how many years? So look, to me, that just gets me excited. Also, the fact that Dokla, again, you talk about second chances, Mitchell, like here he is back in, and he does pretty well, right? Yeah. So, I mean, that's great. Like everyone loves a redemption arc. So again, another thing to get hype about. But really what I was also hype about was their enchanter support comps. Like, to me, we've always been talking about how OP enchanters are, but we don't see it very much in the pro game. And against Dignitas, they literally pick Seraphine and Karma. And I'm like, and then they pair them up with two hyperscalers in Yone and Azir, and then just put a Viego in there. I'm like, dude, this is like the dream comp. Like, I love that composition so much. And even in their other games, they try to incorporate an enchanter. I think they had Senna with an enchanter, and then they had Sona in the last game. But either way, I just really liked a lot of things that I saw. Like, not all the wins were super clean, right? They still made funny decisions. But honestly, like, I was pleasantly surprised, and I'm excited for them. I don't know like if they'll continue the trend, but I hope they stick to this kind of identity, like play enchanters, like do this type of comp that's not, really what we've been saying. So I want to get your thoughts on them. Am I, again, just overhyping them because I tend to do that? You guys might have to bring me back to earth.
Yeah. I'll say I think that them learning the enchanter comps and just basically drafting like late game Exodia comps, where like if you get to this point in the game, there's literally no way you can lose, no matter what your hands are like, is good. I think the Korean boot camp paid off. Like it showed like they had a lot of strategies and they had a very clear idea: just abuse enchanters, and they did it. But this is the immortal situation from the last split, guys. They started 3-0 because they put against Golden Guardians, TSM, and Dignitas, of which all those teams are at the
TSM.
bottom. Yeah, I think it's hilarious that CLG is beating TSM in the modern era. But like only just because of Reggie's tweets and stuff like that. You know, the
Yeah.
one we always called out selling his house. It's just if they were ever worse than CLG, I'm like, if CLG does do really well, which I don't think they'll do too well, yeah, he might actually want to sell his house to get a team like that. But I will give Dokla some credit. NA native NA players who played Jace just generally do nothing. He didn't necessarily hard carry, and he was okay in one of the games, but I think like generally he had a decent performance, and like he looked more confident in his first. I believe Optic was the team he started
Yep.
on. Yeah. His first run around, like he looks a lot better as a player. And then again, this is against worse team, but that's the point. We were just trying to get someone who would upgrade this team above. Who was CLG's top?
I don't
laner?
even remember who their old top laner was.
Like that's a
I
problem
forgot.
if I can't remember.
Wow.
Shoot, it's
Who
not
was
Finn
their old
because that was a
top
while
laner?
ago.
No, it
Anyways,
wasn't.
that says a lot. I was gonna say
Wow.
Kuma, but Kuma's not that team. It's
That's
FlyQuest.
FlyQuest, yeah.
Man,
Wait, did
that's
none of
sad.
us know that?
This is
Oh my
bad.
gosh.
This is
I
bad.
mean, CLG was last place last season. One other thing that I want to shout out before I let
No,
Mitch
they
talk
weren't.
is-
Immortals was. They were 8.
Huh. Yeah. So one other thing was like, there's this Twitter that League Dad pointed out that just basically does like power rankings and like has
Yeah.
its own stats model. It's called KCB Stats
Yep.
at KCB Stats on Twitter. And I noticed that for last week's games, TL was just #1 rated player on every role except for support, where Poom actually was rated above Core JJ. Now I don't necessarily know what goes into those stats, but I think you should check it out. It's really cool. It kind of like
Yeah.
gives them like power levels and stuff like that. So this is really nice to see, and you can see it week to week. So CLG is doing something right. I don't think that defines everything, but I do think Luger and Poom are surprisingly decent. Like I would never put them, like I would never compare them to Destiny and King, for example. So
Yeah.
I think they have some good points, and Dokla being not incompetent is a good sign. I'm gonna figure out who the CLG top winner was last season.
It was Jenkins.
Oh,
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
Very
think he was
unforgettable.
terrible though. I thought he was okay. He's just forgettable. It
He was
wasn't like
very
Fake God's
forgettable.
performance.
Yeah, it was not like Fake Gods. It was just like he was not there, but he didn't drag the team
Yeah.
down. I'm gonna say that Pooh most likely got on that top thing because I just looked it up. He played farming Seraphine, so he probably in the CSD department completely outshone every other.
Yeah.
Every
I mean,
other
it's
support.
weighted in that statistical model, but still, it could make a difference because he's getting more
Yeah.
gold and stuff like that. But
And
yeah,
then, but it's surprising that
core.
other supports also got to play Tom Kench farming, but I guess they don't
Oh,
farm
yeah.
as much as a Seraphine. Makes sense, melee versus range. So,
Yep.
interesting statistic. I wonder how KCB. It'd be cool to have you on or to have your input. You could let us know how
Yeah.
you calculate that with Senna bot lanes because those are always very complicated, always ruin stats in some way. So those are always interesting, considering Senna's
And
going to be very
Yeah.
meta for a while.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot more of it for sure, especially this
Yeah.
split. Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to comment because actually I have a lot of experience with these double enchanter bot lanes. It sucks that Alistair's not here. I used to play on an amateur team where we were called Lotus White. Alistair was actually our coach for this team, and we basically tied for first place. We ended up losing the tiebreaker, getting second place in the regular season, basically abusing enchanters. Seraphine Karma halfway through the split ended up getting banned against us every single game. And then we tried to switch to stuff like Sivir also, but we played a lot of Orianna with the AoE move speed. So there's a lot of ways to do this comp. It's the idea is basically you just don't interact with the enemy team in a 5v5 scenario because in a big your big counter is big AoE 5v5s. Right? If you're all clumped up and grouped together and you get womboed, actually it's a lot of squishy people. You don't have enough time to press your shield abilities, but you just move so fast and you have so much CC and you have so much tankiness that you just run maybe 3 people down in a 5v3 scenario and just kill them before the enemy team can react. Which is what CLG was doing all the time, right? They would get picked off, they would lose, they would die, they would fall behind, and then they just grouped as 5 and ran at one lane, and they were split, right?
Yeah.
The enemy team's like, we're just farming, but you just ran at us randomly, and they get kills or they burn some flashes. So it's an interesting comp. But what's different from back then to what's now is that there's an item called Serpent's Fang, and Serpent's Fang actually is the complete annihilator of this comp. but you need a champion that can actually apply it in an AoE. So funny enough, Sivir, a champ that they picked, is a great counter pick. We actually got screwed over by Sivir before Serpent's Fang even existed because it did so much AoE lethality damage.
Mm.
So this comp is definitely not invincible if you know CLG is gonna pick Seraphine, and you can find a champion that can apply Serpent's Fang in an AoE fashion. You're cutting down thousands of damage. I think ARAM players, Kevin, League Dad,
Yeah.
we all know how broken Serpent's Fang is against Seraphine,
Yeah.
Sona, Janna, all these Karma, all these shielding champions. So the comp is definitely ahead of the meta right now. I think that more people should be abusing enchanters. The fact that we're still getting so much Nautilus and Leona is pretty egregious in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
When you can go these like super giga like outscale comps where you don't die in lane to the Nautilus, it's like he goes in and he dies and he's useless because you have so many shields.
Yeah.
This is, I think, the right meta direction. I think CLG is definitely ahead of the meta, which scares me because their play was pretty rough. And if people
Mm-hmm.
catch on, or if their champions get nerfed, I think they fall right back to being a bottom tier team. So, because their play was just not very good. It was
Yeah.
very clear they're being bailed out by how broken all their shields
Yes.
were. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. I think like but hey, kudos to them because if you're not a better like just traditional ADC and support bot lane than the rest of the league, because there's some good ones. Go with a strategy that doesn't necessarily play it that way, right? Play your game, so to speak, which is don't just try to be better than the rest of the competition at the same old strategy. Try something different and be the best at that. If they counter it, they counter it. But we know sometimes how stubborn teams are sometimes to counter things and how long it takes for whatever reason. And we also see teams not build correctly. And so, like I wonder, like it is good on them. I do think they're ahead of the meta, but I don't know. I think it might be. I think we might see it more from the bottom 6 teams. Try this type of comp out. I actually don't think people will try to counter it. I'd be surprised, or I don't think we'll see it in at least the next 2 weeks. That's my thought process. Just because I feel like people are going to just think they can still win whatever way that they're doing, and it's going to be too much resources wasted to try to just counter one kind of strat, unless they see it in scrims a lot. I don't know.
You might try it in scrims,
Yeah.
but I think, I mean, the JLXP and the dive both touched on this, where, I mean, no one actually wants to scrim CLG, right? Because not only
Mm-hmm.
are they a bottom tier team, they don't play the meta, so no
Yeah.
one wants to scrim them. They have their own sort of internal modifiers, right? And you know what? Maybe you don't play the counters because you can just ban Seraphine. And then
Yeah.
the comp actually doesn't seem to work as well without Seraphine, right? It's a lot different if you don't have Seraphine, but you have these other move speed stuff. Like you still have Jace and Karma, but then you have Senna, Karma. It's like, it's just not as, like, you don't have that game changing ultimate that you really feels like you need, that you can always
Right.
threaten. So, I mean, if you just ban Seraphine, like, I think their Sivir Sona game was also like just banked on the fact that the enemy team picked Yumi, and they got lucky
Mm-hmm.
that they got that counter pick, the Yumi Sona counter pick.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little caveats that make you realize, like, if you ban Seraphine and you don't just blind pick Yumi, maybe their strat just falls apart.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
if you don't
I
get
could see
countered,
that.
yeah.
No, I definitely could see that. I think I just want to see them succeed, especially if that's true that they don't get, scrim partners a lot. It's kind of like a big FU to those guys. Like, we're going to do our own thing then. And if they win at it, they win at it. And I'm kind of rooting for them, like on the low, like I kind of want them to succeed with it, but we'll see. Like, you're right. Like, they could totally just ban Seraphine, or we could see it nothing happen and they continue to win for another week or two. I'd like to see that scenario, but definitely a possibility. It could just be shut down immediately. Okay, let's talk about EG, because our MSI champs, usually we got the MSI hangover. They ended up going 3-0. Wasn't the cleanest 3-0. Definitely saw some signs of the hangover, but overall, what were your thoughts about our MSI representatives? What'd you think?
I was pretty impressed. I mean, I think the dive might have quoted this, but like or maybe JLXP, like historically, just no one has It can't be the dive. The dive hasn't aired yet. No one has gone like above a 50% win rate, which is 1-1 usually, because we usually don't start with a super rate. No one's ever like gone 2-0 coming back. And they've actually oftentimes just gone 0-2 coming back from MSI. We were even talking about it too. We're like, EGs will get cranked up. They've only had a couple days of scrims. They literally came back like the week before, and I had like 3 or 4 days of scrims on the new patch, the biggest patch in like recent memory, right? So I'm impressed. I think they played generally well. I do think that in hindsight, the fact that C9 and them went to such a long game and they eked it out is both impressive and a little concerning, because like they eked it out from a pretty hard position, but they played the same way they have. Like they stretch out games. They have the longest game time of any team in the league, and the one plus I would say is like I think Jojo Pion just is better by a lot. It's not really a hot take than he was last split. Like I think all those people he's been scrimming against in just 6 games in a row against Caps, that will train you up, right? And against Faker and Shahu as well. And I think the bot lane is a little more stable so far. Again, not the hardest, but not the easiest either. They beat 100 Thieves. I think that's actually still worth something, right? Like I was saying last week, like just the Neo 100 Thieves. Like in terms of they take that spot where they have like all the pieces there and they play for late, but they have a lot more inspiration, no pun intended, a lot more inspiration behind what they're trying to do. Well, as we saw with 100 Thieves, they just picked what they usually do, tried to run it back, and tried to scale, and got outplayed. Like they could not play the game as well as EG could, like with the same style.
Definitely think that EG is pretty impressive considering that statistic, right? They broke a record literally. Pretty cool. I think all of the MSI teams are looking really good, right? Not a single team has dropped a series. I think both RNG and T1 dropped games in their series, but they still won. And then G2 is also undefeated. So it's pretty cool stuff to see that happen, because that's what you always want, right? You want your MSI representative to come back and be like, we leveled up instead of we're tired. So I think that's really hype. EG is, I mean, I still think that they're kind of stuck on the old meta. We saw like obviously the Lissandra counter into Ari is pretty good. We saw LeBlanc into Ari, so it doesn't feel like they've actually fully gotten on board on the durability patch. So we'll see how they adapt, but they didn't need to, right? Because they were so good at the MSI patch that they could beat anybody playing that game. And you know what? Their enemy teams kind of opted into the MSI draft anyways, right? I think this team still has a lot to grow. Like you can definitely tell there's a stark difference between MSI and playoff impact and regular season impact. He got some happy plays. He's just hanging out in bot lane getting ganked for like the 4th time in a row. Just be like, oh yeah, I guess I die. Also built the weird Triforce Hex Drinker build. I don't know what's up with that. Maybe it's just making the rounds, right? We saw Zeus go Hullbreaker Triforce too. We're just been seeing the weirdest GP builds. I mean, the champ needs to be nerfed, right? The fact that stuff works is just disgusting. So I think it's cool. I mean, I think everybody's of the same opinion. A lot of people that it's basically EG and TL at the top looking down on everybody else right now.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. I am surprised. Like, obviously, I knew that the hangover thing is real, and you could definitely see signs of it. I think it's actually a good sign that they, despite that, still ended up winning. It just means they know how to win. They're still in that.
It's just good enough.
Yeah, they're just good enough. Like and so even though they're at a kind of a lull, and they probably do still need to catch up on the meta. Which is why they're probably playing some of the same stuff, you know. But they got time, and I think the fact that they started off 3-0, but then also the fact that C9 didn't have their regular squad, like I think that helps them. You start off 3-0, okay, so now let's say you lose a couple of games, it's no big deal. You started off the split, not losing a game in your first 3 games. So I think that's really good. I think Danny also is playing really well as always. I think he's insane. He's insane. Like I think he's just a really good player, and I'm excited to see that because him and Jojo Pion, again, who also played I thought well, that's our future, right? And I always want to see them continue to do well. So I'm glad that they're starting off so good. But what about 100 Thieves now? Because this is a team that is. Oh, you had something. You wanted to say something.
Real quick. I
Yeah.
just wanted to point out that like while the hangover teams are doing well
Yeah.
on paper, T1 committed atrocities in the draft and builds. Like this weekend against KT, they drafted Camille support, Cassidy mid, Callista 80 carry on the durability patch, Diana and Nara, and they just got bodied. And it's not because KT's a good team per se, it's just because they picked the worst draft ever. It was one of the worst drafts I've seen all year, and they lost deservedly. It was disgusting. Anyways, let's just let's go on.
Well,
to
no, just I mean, also the Nong Shim game, right? The game 2,
Oh,
T1
no,
versus
I
Nong
don't
Shim. They 100% were losing. Oh, we win. Why? Why did we win? I don't know. But we won.
T1, it kind of feels like they're playing like just by themselves in a league right now, and I want to see them versus Dama because like those are not winnable games. Those should not be winnable games. That
so
felt like
funny,
LCS if you change the nameplates. I'm sorry, like those were garbage drafts, wrong meta, and just. I'm sorry.
It was like when Immortals almost beat Team Liquid, but they just forgot to hit the Nexus, and then Team Liquid won. It was like exactly that. It's like the enemy team just forgot, oh, we just need to actually end the game to win the game, and then the enemy team just wins. We're like,
KT
shit.
got 3 Cloud Souls, I think, in that series. Like it was just Cloud every time. I'm like, T1 can't keep getting away with this. They can't.
Good stuff.
All right. Well,
LPL's been good though.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely checked out some of the actions. But what about 100 Thieves? Because this is a team that I was kind of on the fence. They had a little bit of a surge and then got dumpstered in the finals, in the playoffs last split. And from what I've seen so far, I'm not feeling too optimistic about them. I actually think I'm not sold on them. I think this roster actually breaks up after this split. What are your thoughts on them so far? You see how I like to overreact there after one week? After I said I want to do it.
3 games, they're breaking up.
I know, they're breaking up. So.
I mean, their first match of the week was against TSM, and it was competitive. And that's a problem. I think that this roster has had so much time to gel. If they have no excuses, right? Like they had the whole 2 months or so between splits. They've had years of just like most of the core sticking together. And I don't think they're a bad roster. Like if they went to Worlds, I'm like, yeah, they'll probably win some games. But like, it's clear that you might not be overreacting about the split up, not because they don't get along, but because they've hit their peak. And like, if 100 Thieves has ambition and wants to be a championship org, they can't just keep praying all the other orgs fall apart around them and then winning, right? Like, I will give them credit; they've hit a lot of finals, but frankly, like they just aren't that inspiring for some reason. And like, we used to give the same crap to Liquid when they were winning or close to winning, right? It's like, I don't know. Like, they're not the sum of their parts. So I think for 100 Thieves, for people who didn't get to catch it, they lost to EG. And this is exactly what we were predicting. Like, I think Mitch and I were like on the same page about this, and also like that. We're just like, EG is probably going to beat them. Like, even though 100 Thieves has like, finally a solid roster, they're starting something, sure, whatever. I think their biggest weak point right now is like their bot lane just used to be at least something exciting to talk about, like a top 2, top 1 bot lane, depending on the patch. And they just haven't been, even during playoffs last year and end of last split. We were just always harping like, where's FBI? He was number 1 or number 2, and he's not in the running. It's so strange. So they need to figure that out. I don't know if it's get rid of Huhi. Maybe he's get rid of FBI, which is hard to think about because he's a native ADC. So like, I would think you would just want to get a better support, at least, and see where that takes you.
Yeah. I'm of obviously the similar opinion. Like, this team is so by the books. They feel like they play so correctly, which I mean is good enough to do well in NA. But it's very, I think the perfect word is uninspiring, right? Very uninteresting. They don't really like, the most interesting thing is that they played Fiora, one of the most broken champions in the patch, right? Not that crazy of an idea. And yeah, their split pushing was not bad. Like against their game against Dig, they played the split push comp pretty correctly, like almost by the books, exactly how you're supposed to play it, which is great. But it's not exciting, and it does feel like when you get against the teams that are a bit more bombastic, like EG, like TL right now, like an eventual C9 who gets their full roster, it's just hard to root for them, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna give respects though to the org. No team does this. They do not keep their roster for 2 years straight.
Yeah.
I love that they tried it. I love that they experimented it, and at least they got rewarded with spring finals
Yeah.
appearance, right? That was great. I'm actually so glad that someone did it because you never know what the peak of a team is if you just break up after a disappointing Worlds performance. It's the one thing that
Mhm.
is kind of annoying about Team Liquid is you get this really awesome roster that you love, and then the next year a bunch of their players are different, and that's why I missed that 2019 Team Liquid roster. I wish they kept Smithy because when Broxus showed up, it seemed like Doublelift just got checked out and then he
Yeah.
retired. Right, he
Yeah.
retired when his best friend Smithy got booted from the roster, and I'm really glad that 100 Thieves experimented with this. But I agree that it does feel like they're just not really gelling. Maybe they got to their heads. I don't know. Maybe it's Reapered. They need to make some changes next year unless they really kick it into high gear, right? Obviously, the split just started, right? They had a slow start also last year, and then they made it to finals, right? We can't really doubt this team yet until we get to playoffs. So, um, these are just first impressions.
Mhm.
That's true.
But yeah, I'm of the same boat, right? Like, it's just even last year's spring split, they just felt like they played by the book slightly better to make it to finals. That's why they were there.
Yeah.
It wasn't because they did anything that exciting or interesting or different. So yeah,
Yeah.
100 Thieves gonna have a high seeding in playoffs, and they might even eke out and make it to Worlds. But for now, I think most of us agree. A lot of the community agrees. They're probably gonna end up fourth. They're probably gonna be right outside looking in, and they're gonna be really bummed that they're gonna lose to like their world spot to Cloud9, who doesn't even have their full roster right now, right? That's probably what's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I think that is the big, question. We'll just have to see because this happened last split, like you said. I think, I don't know. Maybe it's recency bias because of this first week, but I feel like even in their win streak, I still didn't feel quite like they were like just stomping games. Like I just felt like they were pulling out the wins like just somehow each game, like figuring, and that is a skill in itself, but I never actually felt like they were the ones in control or they were the ones dictating the pace of the game. I think they just played better, when it
Just
came down to, yeah, they just
capitalize on
capitalized. And
mistakes.
yeah, and they know how to win. They're a veteran
Yeah.
team, right? And so that's what worries me is that, and honestly why I think they will shake things up next split, because even if they perform decently well, I just think that sometimes you just need a change. You just need new brains to figure out this project that you're working on, fresh perspectives. And what they've been doing, it worked for a while, but it's not working now. And so whether, it's just the process of how do we get there, they might just need to change up personnel.
Yeah. And to clarify, like I don't think it's like keeping the same roster is boring per se, right? It's not like we
Mhm.
don't like 100 Thieves as a
Yeah.
because
Oh
they did
yeah.
some exciting things in terms
Sure.
of branding and stuff. Like Donalon, for example, kept mostly the same roster for so long. Uh, changed out some bot lane pieces, but like the core was always there, kind of like 100 Thieves was doing, and they were exciting. They were always exciting. Like even when they were like not first place, like they were still fun to watch team, and when they were like the de facto person, it was not boring, and that's for a reason, right? They would try to push the tempo. They would try new things, or at least like try to be dynamic. And like Liquid, it had a similar issue to 100 Thieves last split, where like they would just throw games, right? Like they would throw and like they would rebound, right? But the difference between them and 100 Thieves, at least during the regular season, in my mind, was like Liquid still felt like they were ones deciding like that they were coming back into the game. Like they
Yeah.
were still, they would drop the ball, then they would pick it up and like, all right, well, let's try again. Well, a lot of times the 100 Thieves wasn't dropping the ball very much, but sometimes they would just fall into a deficit because like they made a good play on the other team, and they just waited for the inevitable mistakes from like
Yeah.
Immortals or Dig or whatever. Like they knew that the opponents would make a mistake, and that's what's frustrating. When that kind of team like is just they're good. They know how to take advantage of the flaws of their opponents, but they're not like preparing for worlds. Like I think the
Mhm.
reason why Liquid still has like people who like them, like I'm a fan obviously, but like people who like them, like they always make changes and always try to be dynamic towards worlds. If they don't do well enough at worlds, they don't give a crap because they've already won 4 in a row. Like ostensibly, like, it doesn't super matter once you get to like trophy 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, that's nice, but we want to get to at least quarters, right, at Worlds, and hopefully further. And for 100 Thieves, it's like the way they play is like, are you trying to go to
Yeah.
Worlds? Like, or do well? What you're trying to go to Worlds. That's what it looks like. You're trying to get to the finals, which is very respectable, and I don't blame them. But you've got to do something with your play. Like, why are you not taking risks during the regular season? Why are you still playing the same? Like, maybe it's just because they're the best at it. Like, that play style might, the punish game, they're just very good at, right? And that's not always bad. But I think in recent this year, in terms of all the patches, like, it just feels like it won't get you across the finish line against a really good team. Because, like, how are you going to punch T1 or RNG or EDG or any of the good teams out there, V5, top East, they're just going to crush you.
Even G2, right? I feel like this team would get absolutely slaughtered by G2, who was on the lower echelon of the top teams at MSI. I mean, I do think though, like, if I think from a business standpoint, right? God, is this great branding at least for 100 Thieves? They're now considered. I mean, they weren't for a while, right? They got 10th place with that Bang and Aframu roster, right?
Which is crazy to think about.
Which is crazy, right? And then now they are just considered a perennial top 4 team and sometimes higher. That's a great improvement for a new franchise team. So, I mean, when you take it from that perspective, it's very respectful to be like, hey, we're gonna be in the top 3, top 4 always, and it might not look the greatest, but I bet you their shareholders are happy. I bet you, like, hey, we went from not even wanting to invest in this team to being like, we can rely on this org to always be top 4 and hope to get higher. So, I mean, that's great for them. I think for long-term games, it's boring to root for them for in the short term when you see how these other teams are innovating and being way more interesting and having much better seeming results. Um, so, yeah, I mean, this team is obviously still great though, right? Like, Closer is still in the conversation for best jungler in the league, right up there with Santorin. So, they still got some great stuff. Someday is obviously still like a top 3, top 4 top laner, so we don't have to, he can even be top 1 if he wants. It does feel like that Fiora play dashing into the Nexus towers and the minions is like, that's a bit awkward someday. You made the sickest flash over the Sejuani ulti into just queuing in the completely wrong direction. That's just regular season someday, I'm imagining. But I mean, Abadage, man, what a disappointing. I don't know. It's just he's
Ooh,
losing
he
every
is
single lane.
looking
He
bad.
still lost. Like, what happened?
I don't know. He's just losing every single lane. This guy is a shell of the player that he was last year in summer split, and all of his time in EU. When he was on Schalke in EU, this guy was like a freaking magician, dude. He pulled the craziest plays out of his butt on a bottom tier roster, and I don't know, man. Maybe he got just complacent, but he is just a shell.
He looks
It's just
terrible.
really sad to see. Yeah, it's a bummer, man. Cause like he did make that game-winning play against TSM, but like you were getting bodied so hard in lane, dying to every gank, and then you land one charm to win the game. Like that is luck, right? Everybody's gonna say that's luck. That's not good play.
Yeah.
So, oh man,
Yeah.
I do think that it's unfortunate that Abadage turned out like this. Maybe if they had a really exciting mid laner that we could talk about. Wow, mid jungle is sick, right? Maybe they carry this team. But yeah, Abadage is. I mean, I just feel bad for Closer, man. This guy's so good, and it feels like all of his lanes are just not as good as the top team counterparts. And then he is just actually at the top of his game though. So.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit now about TSM because this was a team.
I saw this coming.
Again, we were wondering with the upgrade, with Maple, how would he do? But overall, just to see if there was any merit or weight to TSM possibly being able to get fifth, by the end of the split. Like, how do you think they did with the upgrades? Just my first impression was I thought Spica looked good again. I think Maple is definitely an upgrade. That was evident right away. But yeah, I don't know. What did you guys think of them? Do you think now that you've seen 3 games from them, that this is, you know, a playoff team at least, instead of a last place team.
Oh, it's definitely a playoff team. I think I power ranked them at 7th. I think most of the podcasts
Yeah.
put them at least in the top 8, which is
I had
playoffs.
8th.
Yeah.
8th, yeah. So just barely. I think Maple's a huge upgrade. I think this guy has looked actually quite good. Like especially considering what he has to work with. I think he's been playing quite well. Like he's new to the team, guys. He just joined. He just got to the States probably at most a month ago, right?
Mhm.
So it is impressive. I think he's just shown a decent amount of class. Like he's not looking like a 13th, 14th place team mid laner getting benched out in China. And maybe he still is that level, but that might just be the level we have at the
This
middle
is
of
good
our
enough.
pack.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, it's good
It's
enough
good
for
enough.
us.
It's better than Abba, right? Like
Oh,
unfortunately.
yeah.
And I think that it's also a lot better than Kaido. It's better than Takeover. So like this team, this might be a weird take, but if this team was playing last season, they could have got 5th, maybe even 4th. But like last split, like without all the history and all the like trauma and whatever that happened. But I think they're still like they're just on track to be 7th or 6th. I think weirdly enough, Hooney's just so much worse than last season.
I know.
In the first 3 games, like
I
dude,
know.
this guy is like goes to red buff as Vladimir, like blows on his whole load, then runs away and just dies solo to Nocturne. Like,
It looks so bad.
What's this guy doing? Like this guy went to World Finals, really? Like he's phoning it in, at least at the beginning of the week, right? Like it's terrible. Tactical again is very feast or famine. Like I do see like the brilliance, like the glimpses of brilliance, but the problem with him is that I think he actually just doesn't have. If he doesn't have like a world-class brain, like a Chauster, a Core JJ, somewhat an Afro move to pilot him, he's just going to be bad forever because the downsides are just too down, right? Like League is a kind of game, especially for AD carry. Like if you're a tank top lane / jungle main, yeah, you could probably play like that for a long time and get around, right? But you can't do that as AD carry. You just cannot. And he continues to show like his peaks can just be up there with the top 80 carries here, but his lows are quite literally just like lost in king tier when they're having their
king
lows,
tier.
right? Right? And that's not good enough. Mio had a pretty bad week as well, honestly. I kind of was hoping to see some talent there. And apparently he's from Korea, I think. But I think he just had jitters. Like you just saw him just do bad plays. A lot of mechanical mishaps. And with all that being said, speak of Maple played well. Like being weighed down by Hooney, having like the ticking time on that is tactical. Like I need to do well, or maybe something goes wrong down there. I think that Maple and Speaker have a future in the league, whether it's with TSM and a revamped roster or just like go to a better team. I think they looked good. It's the first week, but I could see why if you have a lot of copium, you could think they could get 5th. But that 5th is predicated on 6th and 7th being like just the teams collapsing around them, not because TSM's so much better now. It's just they got good upgrades, but their players are like downgrading around them. It's actually really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is sad. I have to just wholeheartedly agree with the Hooney point. He looked so bad this weekend. Like easily just fake god levels of bad.
It just doesn't look like he cares, man.
Dude,
think he
I don't know if
cares.
he just doesn't care or if like he's just eternally tired or sleepy. I don't know, man. Like yeah, like the Vlad was just awful, right? That stuff
Terrible.
was just bad. But like the Gwen too, man, he's just TPing in on his own and dying, and he's just running in there and like, oh, I'm dead. Like it's just so hard to watch, especially when Smika and Maple are trying so hard to win the game.
They are, I
And then
know.
it's like they're trying so hard, and then I swear you could just hear probably Hooney is like, oh, I messed up, guys, and then Smika's probably just like, God damn it, dude.
Yeah.
How did we lose this game? Like, that 100 Thieves game, right? I swear to God, man. It was like TSM first game. We're playing against 100 Thieves. We're gonna make the big splashes. We're gonna really get on the page, and Tactical just gets charmed randomly in the river. I'm like, oh my God, is that how they lose the game? And yep, that is how they lose the game. They lose every single fight after that, and the game is over. They just have no mental, right? If Team Liquid, if that happened to Team Liquid, that exact scenario, I don't think they just lose the game right after, right? They don't just roll over and die.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what happened. They just completely mental booms, one bad play, one bad fight, and they're out. I think it's just tactical and Huni. All right, Mia, first week in LCS, I'm gonna give him some credit. It's his first time seeing him. I really don't care that he played badly. He is surrounded by star-studded veterans, right? If he plays bad, this team should not lose because of that. Um, but I mean, here's a fun stat. I'm pretty sure there was a tactical game. He was playing I think he was either like Lucian or Jinx, or he's playing somebody. He didn't use his summoners the entire game until the last team fight. I think he used heal or something, but he didn't use his flash until the very last team fight in a 30+ minute game. You're telling me that's
Wow.
not win trading? Like,
Yeah.
hello? Like, that's
Hey,
taking
I
double
saw
lift, saving
BDS
flash.
hand a Baron over an LEC the other day. I actually
That's
have
true.
been
That's true.
I've been convinced that there might be a little bit of win trading, like actual match fixing, like happening in our league. Like I've been joking about it for like years now on this podcast. But like I'm starting to be good. They literally leashed a Baron and just like, here, have it, sir. So,
Dude,
oh.
Tom Kench looked just too much like Baron. They're like, which
Yeah,
one's the right one? Which
So,
one's the
you
right
know,
one?
I'm when that documentary or that like whistleblower comes out years from now, just say we called it.
Yeah.
Just say BDS is we're trading. Man,
Huni
I
might
hope-
also
I
be,
hope.
dude. Huni's getting double paychecks.
Oh my
Dude,
gosh.
Huni's been win trading since his time on Echo Fox, man. It's been actually like 5 years now, like 5-6 years since this guy's been running it down.
I
And
cannot believe
it's
this
just
guy was on a team with Faker before.
this guy was not
I
only
mean,
on
same
a
with
team with
Bang though.
Yeah, this guy was like he came into NA and EU as just the best. Him and
Yes.
Rainover were literally the best. And then
Yeah.
look at him now. It's just disgusting. So,
yeah.
like
At least Raynor was coaching. Like, you can't really say much about that. But Raynor like fell off. And Hootie's just like, is there any top laner worse than him in our league right now? Like, including the rookies like Philip and
I mean, I would say probably other players are missing things, but are just more willing to like go with the flow, so you just don't see it, right? Like I bet you Philip
Yeah.
is probably a worse player than Huni, but he's just willing to go with the flow. Where Huni so aggressively wants to make plays
Yeah.
that are so out of tempo and beat with the rest of his team. Like, okay, the one play I'm talking about in particular is on Gwen. Is he TPs into the middle of the enemy team, and the Galio TPs to a ward maybe half a screen over, and he goes in with no mana and just dies immediately.
Yeah.
And then you just see Galio run up with TP and just being like, all right, run back away. Like, my guy died. He's dead.
Yeah,
It's
I think the perfect way to describe it is he's autopiloting. It's not that like he doesn't have mechanics or hands. Like, yeah, sometimes his Rumble has like intelligent plays, but like it's because he's just been doing this for so long, and he's just sitting there like he's just not even at the wheel, man. He's just letting it go, and his brain is off. And if his team plays around him, like follows the mad dog that's just running around wildly, yeah, sure, they could get stuff happening, but I don't get it. Like, how is this guy still starting? Right?
Mm-hmm.
He must be a scrim god. I don't know. He must be a scrim god. Like, he must be like the most charismatic like teammate too. Like, his comms
He is
must
very
be
likable,
insane.
which is what's so
Very
unfortunate.
likable. Yeah. I mean, like that carries people a lot just in real life. Like you see that all the time.
Yeah.
Incredibly charismatic people with a lot of talk and a history of doing well. But then when you actually see the results, you're like, oh, this guy's phoning it in. Like you see this
Yeah.
at work, you see this in other sports and other medias and TV and movies, actors. Like this stuff happens all the time. So I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if there's something like that. But I mean, Alistair would definitely be on the same boat as us. He would be flaming
Yeah, he
crap
would.
at Huni. I mean, this he's not good. Like
No.
like the times where the casters get to say Huni could always bring it back. Like I think we're just done. We're like 2
Beating a
years
dead
far
horse.
past that.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, I agree with you guys with all the points. I mean, like I said, Huni's a likable guy, but man, I think it's about time to hang up that banner. Is there any other
money, man.
Yeah, is there any other team you guys want to talk about, or any highlights you want? We got Immortals. I mean, I did want to touch just a little bit on Kenvi because I know, he was being bumped up from Academy.
Talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, he was getting hyped up. Unfortunately, his first game was against Team Liquid, and Team Liquid came out swinging, and they got perfect gamed against Team Liquid. So, Whew, that is not the best. I mean, welcome to the LCS, buddy. You know, like I feel bad for him, and his stats didn't look good at all. And if we were to look at the KCB stats ranking, I mean, he was like ninth out of all the junglers. So let me get your thoughts on them. You know, was it just nerves? Did they just have bad matchups? I mean, what do you think it was? To me, he definitely did not impress. But again, first day, first time, got to give him a little slack, right?
Yeah, I think from my viewing of it, I kind of viewed him through the lens of he was basically like he had a very similar week to Jojo Pion's first week.
Mm.
Like you could tell this kid had hands and like knows how to play the game and like is pretty fresh, right? He did some decent XX on Nocturne. Like he knows his numbers. Like when Huni comes to check him at Red Bull, he doesn't run away. He's like, dude, you're gonna get run down. What are you doing? And he just beats him, right? He's that guy in solo queue, like who knows what he's doing and
Hmm.
like stuff like that. But he hasn't played at a pro level as a jungler. Like when you're JoJo Pion, you're surrounded by like superstars. You have Summit Uber carrying the top lane. You have Blabber as like playing a really good spring Blabber split, and you have Berserk in bot lane. Like, of course, like or not just sorry, wrong team. Inspired. I'm like, why did I get that mixed up? Inspired and then Impact and all these
Where you're
other
going with
veterans. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I got it mixed up. Oh, it's because Fudge also switched. It was new to the mid lane. But anyways, when Jojo Pion had like all these veterans around him, other than Danny, right? And he does bad, like it's fine. He just like clears waves, right? But when you're a jungler and you're like just doing fine or like doing pretty decent mechanically, it doesn't matter if you just don't have enough teamwork or enough skill elsewhere on the map. Like if things collapse in some part of the map, you're going to do poorly. My other take was like Lost. Oh man,
Oops. Oops.
I
Yep.
again, I
Not
still
good.
don't think he's terrible, but he just keeps showing performances where I'm like, oh my goodness, what is up with this guy? So that's all
Yeah.
I have to say
Yeah.
about him. I think Kenvi is fine, and he will probably improve a lot with experience because jungle is one of the hardest pro roles to adapt from, even if you're a mechanical god.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely with Kenvi, I mean, I'm gonna give him some slack, obviously. I mean, they like okay, getting perfect game by Team Liquid, you know, there's no shame in that, right? You're literally a bottom tier team that like 2/5 of your roster just formed, or 3/5 of your roster just formed. There's
Yeah.
no shame in losing to Team Liquid like that. Like, I think you can completely toss that one out. That's whatever, right? First game, it's a bummer, but whatever, right? Second game, they actually won. They beat FlyQuest, who is someone that they're gonna be in contention with in playoffs. So I think that's great too. I mean, FlyQuest also had a new top laner, but that's one new player compared to
Hmm.
three, and they actually end up winning. So I think that's great for Immortals. I will say that their game against TSM they lost. God, did they just throw Kenvi out just in the gutter? Like picking Nocturne in that game is just like go suicide for us. Like that's
Yeah.
literally what they told him to do. You're gonna build Stridebreaker and Athema's chains. So you don't even get to one-shot the enemy ADC. You just are thrown in there, just distract him and hope the rest of the team carries you.
Mm.
I think that's a really crappy thing to do. Honestly, it's like that draft had no way to salvage and save your Nocturne. That guy is just diving in on his own. I mean, I get they're playing a split push comp with their Fiora, but like dude, Revenge just kept grouping, so it didn't even matter,
Yeah.
right? Like they just didn't know how to play a split push comp. And yeah, I don't know. I think we might have overhyped Lost. I think he's actually pretty bad. Like
Yeah. He did not look
yeah, that
good,
guy's
but this is not the loss that I was remembering from last split, honestly. Like, I honestly didn't think before this split, like, he was as bad as, like, it felt like he was getting, from just analysts and stuff, but he looked pretty bad this week. And I don't know
yeah.
if I just didn't see it last split or if he just got worse, but, or maybe it's just, new support, right? So maybe take some time to synergize. I don't know, but it did not look good. Is all I'm saying. It looked like a definite
Yeah,
downgrade from last split.
looked rough. Yeah.
So yeah, so definitely gonna have to see again. I also think Kenvi gets a little slack, but just wanted to mention that because he is someone that has been doing really well in academy for so long. So we want to keep an eye on him and see how he progresses. Anything else on any of the other teams that you wanted to mention before we move on to
Uh,
the meta?
I think it's interesting to talk about. I mean, FlyQuest a little bit. They had their ups and downs too.
Hmm.
Um, any consensus on Philip versus Kumo yet? I mean, obviously it's just 3 games, but what are your guys' thoughts on that? because I do think it's interesting to talk about the roster changes.
I thought Philip was fine, honestly. I didn't think he was like spectacular. I also didn't think he was terrible. But I don't know comparatively. It just kind of seemed the same. So I don't see one way or the other.
My impression
Yeah.
was like what I always remember of Kumo was that before last split, like he just had like some very low lows as well. Like especially when he was on the C9 roster, it was like sub events doing stuff like that. I haven't seen that from Philip. Like I didn't think he was ever like turbo into like he seems to have like enough sense to like play like stably and it's not like a fake out or anything so far. So it's a pretty good sign for your first week. Like you just don't know what you're doing yet, and I think there's enough stability elsewhere on the roster. Like they should get their crap together. It is weird that they went 1-2. I think in the first week, like I was giving a lot of credit to Immortals, right? But even I didn't think that would come together in week one. Like I don't think FlyQuest beats EG, right? Like no one thinks that. FlyQuest
Yeah.
beat GG. That's expected.
Mm-hmm.
Them losing Immortals week one with that many changes is really bad.
Hmm.
Honestly, like there should be so much strength on that team that they should still win early on, and then like as Immortals gels, then maybe they'll be better. I have no idea how they lost that. Like I saw it and I'm like, what? That happened? So
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tukey, Sir Tukey there in that loss, he was popping off on his year. He was 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, for Philip, for me, I mean, I'm not gonna say he's bad. I was it's 3 weeks, first week in the split. Obviously, got to give him credit, just like Kenvi, right? Got to give him some slack. I mean, but something I will say that I briefly mentioned this last podcast, but like it's interesting to talk about Immortals and FlyQuest. We both power ranked them as our middle of the pack teams, and
Mm-hmm.
FlyQuest when they had Kumo, yeah, he kind of had some pretty bad laning phases, but at least he was a good role player. Like I
Yeah.
felt like he when the team needed him to play tanks, he busted out the Scion and the Ornn, and he just played his role. He just grouped. He went down 50 CS. He grouped and he team fought decently well. I don't see this from Philip. He's playing carry champion. He's playing Vlad. He's playing Aatrox. He's playing Camille. I don't actually think that's what FlyQuest needs, and I actually think it's going to hurt them in the long run. Even if Philip noticeably improves, I think it still might hurt them in the long run. I feel like this team just needs that weak side,
Mm-hmm.
top laner who can be a role player, but maybe just not like lose so hard in lane. Um, they basically need impact, right? Like that's what I feel like that they would need
You make a
to
really good
really
point though, because
be
I
the
mean,
winner.
with someone like Takui who's proven that he's capable as a mid laner, and then Johnson Aframu is actually a pretty decent bot lane. Like you have the resources to carry through those areas. I mean, honestly, and Jose Dioto's is great too, right? He's actually kind of been on an uptrend as far as his performance in the LCS and top lane. Although does seem sideways as far as like I don't really see anything either way. I think just what they need, like what you said, Mitchell, that was a really good point because if you are going to want Takui or your bot lane to carry, which they can, I feel like that's a viable strategy, then you don't need a carry top laner. You need someone who's not going to demand a lot of resources, someone who can just suck it up and play for team game objectives. Then
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that's actually a pretty good take. Yeah.
I think the biggest change is that they lost their CEO. Like as I said before, like that's I said
Oh.
it
It's
before when I
the
put
Trisha
Immortals
diff.
above FlyQuest, and look,
Mm.
Trisha's gone, and now they're just collapsing at the seams. Anyways, they'll like go 2-0 next week, and we'll
I
just
know,
see.
right?
Like
It's because they lost their CEO.
actually, I don't know what I'm gonna quickly check what the matchup is next week, but
All right.
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk
Who
a
do
little
I
bit
have?
about the meta because I know this
Uh,
is we touched a little bit on the
oh
enchanter
yeah,
thing. But I want to get your thoughts. I'm sure you guys have some things because this is really what we wanted to see, right? This was the thing that I think we were going to be the most hype about, before we saw this week one was what we were going to see with the durability update. Were there going to be champs
yeah.
that kind of stole the spotlight? So let me get your thoughts on what you saw. Um, did you think we were going to see more stuff? Did you think what was it as it expected for you? Just general thoughts on what you saw this week.
Yeah, I will actually want to. It's probably maybe a hot take, but a lot of people have been complaining, "Oh, games are so long and boring." Draw. I just want to say, like, I don't actually think that's true. I think maybe a few teams have been playing like that because they're just scared or they like to scale without thinking too hard. But actually, the average game time for a lot of the teams, over half of the teams in the league, is shorter than the average game time at the end of last season's regular split. So last season's regular split was like 31 to 34 minutes, and this season Liquid was 27 minutes. Like a lot of notable names like Golden Guardians and Immortals were 30 minutes and 30 minutes as well. Like I mean, Evil Genius was 37 minutes, but they had that 45-minute game. And out of 3 games, yeah, of course it's going to extend it, right? Same for the team they were playing against, just C9. But I don't really think it's actually been like that much longer, if at all, which to me is already just like in isolation, that's a big success. You made it so team fights cannot be as like one-shotty, but the games aren't so much longer. In fact, in a lot of cases, they're shorter. Like Team Liquid just perfect games. They play aggressively and they show like it can work. Obviously, they have better players, but if you watch LPL, it's the same. Like you don't need to be like LCK where there's like a 35 or 37 minute or whatever that like super crazy first blood at 30 plus minutes. Like it was painful.
Yeah.
That it's totally a choice, right? And like some teams will choose that, and I think that's okay as well. But I don't think it's the patch as well. It's just like now you can choose to play longer or shorter, and you can play a Fiora top or a Sejuani top. Like you don't. I think that's a lot better than what we were having before, where Ornn was the only viable tank. So first impressions, that's nice. I am annoyed, and we were talking about this in the pre-show a bit as well as like in the earlier parts. Like I'll let Mitch take more of the glory for this, but I am annoyed that a lot of teams are being lazy about it. So go ahead, Mitch.
Yeah.
You can go dig into that.
Oh yeah. I think that a lot of, I mean, EG obviously, I mean, they get an excuse, but they're playing MSI drafts. I think a lot of teams are also opting into just basic MSI drafts, early picking Ari Wukong blinds, right? Like these champs are still good, but blind pick early very punishable in the new meta. There are so many champions that not only counter them but also scale better too. Um, I think a great one that I love that CLG did is, God, does Talia screw over those champions so hard. Wukong actually just can't engage. If you try to E or W in as a Wukong onto the massive Talia E hitbox, you just get stunned. You can't ulti. So great. Like, there's just so many picks that nobody's utilizing, right? The lack of Swain, right? Swain also great into that stuff. You want to jump in as Wukong and Ari into a Swain, like go right ahead. Like you're gonna lose that. So I think that it's it's just it's early on. Pros are stubborn, and pros like to have a sure way to win on stuff that they know they're good at, no matter how actually good it is in the meta. Which I think is like fair to an extent, but also it's like this is the first week of LCS, man, and like do you really need to guarantee get that Ari Wukong win for like the 50th time? You've been playing this. You played this last split. You're practicing in scrims, and now you're playing it here. It's been meta for like 3 months now. You don't need to play it anymore. It's gonna get nerfed and changed already, right? So the argument that I don't want to play Kog'Maw or Talia or Swain because it's gonna get nerfed, that's just not gonna happen in the same way it is because those champs are just fundamentally better with the durability patch. Um, I think the Twitch Yumi was just like completely out of left field when
Yeah.
Kog'Maw Lulu was a thing.
I didn't
It
get
just
that.
feels like Kog'Maw Lulu is a stronger laning pair. They scale just as well, if not maybe better in some scenarios. Obviously worse in others because Twitch has got that AoE stuff. But like Kog'Maw Lulu not making a showing when Twitch Yumi was, I think was really just like a really bad meta read on the teams that picked it, right? It was FlyQuest and C9 that picked it.
Yeah.
So they probably scrimmed each other and thought it was good, but Kog'Maw Lulu should have been picked, right? The overindulgence on Ezreal, I think, is so easily punished and just bad. And you saw how CLG was able to punish it, right? Stixxay got so fed on that Ezreal, just so much CS up, just a ton of gold, got all these plates. And Seraphine, Karma, they just are full health every fight. Their
Yeah.
team is at full health. So there's a lot of meta stuff that I mean, I could go on, right? Like, okay, before I drop it off to you next, guys, I'm going to go on a small rant. Corki is
Okay.
obviously really good in this meta, right? Corki
Yeah.
is great. He's a great winner. That champ is not fair. Corki is not fair by any means at all. Okay, I'm not gonna say Corki is like OP or like like broken or anything,
Yeah.
but like his kit is unfair. There at no point should you get to a stage where you're at 2 items, right? This champ is at not at like 5 or 6 items. This champ's at 2 items, Ludens, Muramana, and okay, Sork boots. So 3 items, like 2 items with boots, right? And he is two-shotting people across the screen in an AoE fashion, right? Sometimes he's not even hitting the intended target. He's hitting the person next to them,
Yeah.
and they're still losing half their health. It's AoE Nidalee Spears on a lower cooldown with less mana cost.
And faster.
And faster. They are faster, and they're a bigger hitbox.
Yeah.
It's not fair. I think that the champ needs to be reworked. I actually miss Triforce, Corki. That stuff was so fun. This stuff is just like, it's just ARAM mindlessly poking bot. It's just not, for me, it's not interesting to watch. I appreciate Azael going ham every time he lands a big rocket, but
I
I'm just like,
know.
that's just bullshit. Like
Yeah.
Azael goes, whoa,
Yeah, I know,
that was
every
crazy,
time.
and I'm just like, that's just so stupid, man.
To translate for us, I was like, whoa, what the heck is that? Like,
Yeah.
what the crap, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that sentiment. It just anytime you see that, it's just like it's always a woe because it does so much damage, but you're like, should it do that much damage? Like even with the durability like patch, like that is crazy that it's just like that. And one thing we learned about Corki this past week, though, is that the Bjergsen build was not the way to go because obviously,
We knew that before too.
Yeah.
I don't know what Bjergsen was thinking.
If I ever see him, if he plays Corki next week and still goes like his wonky build, I will be Sunder. I will be upset.
Sunderer,
I will be
like,
so upset.
so weird.
Yeah.
Rapid Fire, Divine Sunderer, just like the lowest damage build you could possibly have.
Yeah.
Like literally hitting
That's
giant
terrible.
big ones on lots of key targets and doing like 200. I'm like, that's what it should be, right? That's the balanced version. But you're just already doing the balance for them. Like, come on, man, just abuse it.
Yeah. I mean, he's building what? Yeah, the balanced team should make it. That's what the build.
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
the output it should be at.
Right.
But he's already-
Triforce, right? Like getting in a lot, weaving in your autos,
Yeah.
right? Shredding people up, not killing people from half a screen
Yeah.
away, not even interacting with them. And
Yeah.
also just the concept of Corki package, right? Okay, it was the funniest thing watching King against EG literally get solo killed by Corki package with also a Q heal and his ulti shield. He still died just sitting on the Corki package.
Yeah, that's crazy.
more than
That's
once.
funny.
Like he legitimately hit probably the lowest level an NA ADC has ever hit in a pro game. Like well, in recent history.
Yeah, that was
Yep.
so bad. I do think that the pros are right though. They're banning Lucian and Zarya had 100% prio. Senna had near 100% prio.
Yep.
I all think that that's correct, right? Azir, Corki, obviously I think that's correct. Viego, I mean, he's not bad. I actually think he's still quite good. Definitely being overpicked. That champion is getting away with murder. Like the amount of times where Viego looks completely useless, but luckily is able to get a W stun in because the enemy team lets him get close. That champ is just not good when the enemy team is literally like super max range, tons of disengaged. Like that's one of the few scenarios where Viego's not good and he's just getting picked into it.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the meta needs to change, right? I think we need to get rid of the Ahri, maybe. There are arguments that Ahri is still good because of the pick potential on these scaling champions. You can kind of push the tempo early, but just pick LeBlanc. I think LeBlanc is much better at that, much more consistent, and just does more damage.
Yeah, I mean, she was only picked 3 times, but won all her games. I think in a nutshell, she does kind of do what Ari also tries to do. I think just with better damage and better pick potential.
Better damage, less CC setup, but like just every Aura we saw got completely bodied in lane. Like not even like they lost lane. It's like they were down like over 50 CS, losing their turrets, dying in lane, like just never having HP or mana because she's such a bad laner. Into like stuff like Azir, LeBlanc, Lissandra. She's just losing lane to all of these meta champions, and I just don't think it's warranted, right? Like I don't think you should be picking this so that you do just get that one miracle charm Everfrost. So
yeah. Well, I was talking to you a little bit about this before, Mitchell, before we started recording, but Kalista had an 80% presence. And I know this is a champion, at least on this podcast, where we're always confused. And if I do wish Alistair were here, because I think he would be confused as to why there's such a high priority on this champ when she doesn't seem like she should be good. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that real quickly. Yeah, she only got through once, but again, she had an 80% presence, so she was banned every other time. She didn't win that one game, but why are people prioritizing her, even though we haven't seen much of her, but it seems like people are really wanting her?
I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I think it's the common bait of her ultimate is just so powerful that you can stabilize in lane, go even in CS, and you just chuck somebody in, and that's enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's enough considering how much power you can put into an ADC. Like Ezreal, who is I think got better with the durability update, especially with Cyrilda's not getting nerfed like the other armor pen items.
Mm-hmm.
But by no means is Ezreal on the same level as Zeri or
Yeah.
Lucian or Kog'Maw or even Jinx, right? But we're seeing Ezreal and Kalista, and it's just I think it's a mix of players are good at them and they're just a safe laning phase. Callista has a very strong laning phase where it's hard to push her out. She's got prio, um, and her ultimate is so good. But like even in MSI before the durability update, Callista looked pretty freaking useless. Like the only time
Yeah.
she looked good was when G2 played her, and they just kept chucking in Diana over and over again. Just chuck her in, get her a big ulti, and then Yasuo follows up, right? But I mean, I don't know. I feel like in the durability update, she should just be straight unplayable. Also, you know what? You know who freaking Callista hates playing against? Like enchanters that outrange her, because
Yeah.
not only can she not get any damage in, she's already so low damage. Um, enchanters all have slows, and they all slow her, and she can never just like hop around like she wants to.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. Kevin, did you have any
uh,
thoughts on Callista?
Yeah, so my theory is that teams that is so she was only really played once, so like but she was
Yeah.
banned 9 times. And that's
Yeah.
crazy.
mhm.
My theory is they played in Korea, they scrimmed, Calista got through, smashed them early with some crazy like Calista players over there, right? And then they were just
Yeah.
this is broken. This is just absolutely broken because scrim culture is oftentimes decided by early game crap, where people
Mm-hmm.
just like say like let's just start again, or like let's redo it, right? This is a waste of time. There's nothing we'll learn because
Yeah.
Callista's busted, and that's why they always ban it, and it's always being picked. Like, dude, Kumin say has 0 KD on his one loss of Callista against. It was that terrible comp that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, the one with the Camille support. It was literally
Yeah.
Callista existed to throw Camille in. She did
Yep.
nothing else. And even with that, like carry a built, even shroud, and like some other garbage, like oh my god, even shroud I could go on a crusade against. That item is extreme bait. Okay, that item is
Yeah.
absolute trash. It is 1-5 in LCK. Callisto
Yeah.
is, and it's 0-1 in NA. I don't get it. I think that a lot of pro players just hate the idea of getting styled on in lane or just like getting CS defenses. They hate it, and so by nature they want to either play Callista or just like don't want to see it. And when
Yeah.
the coach is like, I mean, it's fine, it's useless after, they're like, no, my KDA or whatever. I will say LPL has her as the second most played character, and it's like a 55% win rate, 11-9. So like they make it work, and to their credit, LPL plays at such a tempo where this can work, right? But no one else plays like that. Like no one else is playing like Calista isn't always wrong, but it is almost always wrong.
Yeah.
Unless you are playing with the right composition to fit her in, and like you getting that lead, getting that tower, and then unlocking your support or whoever you're bound to just fling in. If that works in your comp and you actually have the wherewithal to play that out, then more power to you. I'm actually excited to see it because it's cool. But all the times I was just like, I see her build all this like all these items that do nothing, like just tickle. Like there was a team fight. We might have been an LC where like 5 people were like around like the point of dying, and the cluster players just like throwing all these spears, and everyone just gets out alive. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
What just happened? Or maybe that was lost. No, I don't think it was lost. But it was just absurd that she's just so low damage now. If you ever played Calista since release and remember what her old Rend used to do, like that shit used to be so awesome. Like
That
you would have
slaps,
like
yeah.
40 javelin spear whatever things in a tank, and you just pop them for 2k, and you're like, yes. Now you
Yeah.
pop them for 500 after you've
Yep.
like sat there. No AD carry does like as little damage to a tank, I think, in the game currently. Maybe
Yeah.
Jin
I mean,
for a second.
it's pretty up there, man. Like she does so little. Like there was a game. I'm pretty sure the one time she was played in LCS. I don't remember which it was, but she must have had a bajillion stacks in the Baron, and the Baron was at 1300. She rends. It only did like 500 damage to it. I was like, what? And then they got smite stolen. I'm like, this champ is freaking worthless,
The
man.
only
Yeah.
time
You
this
can't
place
even
was Lost played it, so I'm sure Lost was
There
very
we go.
confused as well.
Dude,
Yeah.
you can't even secure Baron when you have a million Ren stacks in it, and the Baron's at like 1300 HP. Your Rend, it goes down to like 400. Your own jungler doesn't smite it, because even he's surprised at how little damage it does. And then the enemy jungler just yellow smites and gets it. Like, it felt like the most stupid thing. Like, this champ is just nerfed into the ground. Like, I think conceptually, obviously, the champ is really, really interesting, really strong, but it's just her numbers are so crap, and I don't think anybody's gonna disagree with that. Like her numbers are straight dog.
Yeah.
She's the rise of 80 carries is what I'll dub
Dude,
her.
yeah, yeah, she is the rise of AD carry. She's literally there for one thing, and that is to stun people slash knock people up. Like Rise is literally just there to wave clear and W people, right? That's what Calista is there. Wave clear, not lose lane, and ult people in. And
And bait people into
man,
losing.
yeah, like I don't know, man. It's just I just feel like also it just goes so against the durability patch. Like if I'm playing like Callista and then I have like I don't know Kog'Maw or Senna, I just feel so happy because I'm gonna go down maybe 20 CS and then I'm going to do infinitely more damage for the rest of the game than her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't see Kog'Maw. Some things that we did actually get to look at, even if it wasn't like dominant or anything. We did see Olaf up top there from Blippo. We also saw Swain from Blippo again. So we
Swain
were
wanted to point out he
yeah.
was famous for that. That was when he subbed in for Soaz. He played Swain bot at times and just like top like everywhere, and he's very good at it.
Yeah.
So he's probably very happy that it's like probably OP.
Yep. We also saw Vladimir, although we saw Vladimir twice, but Vlad did not win any of those. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He won one game.
Huni won actually.
It didn't
on
actually.
That shitty game against Immortals. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't actually
The
look
game where he
good to
got
me.
solo killed after the rep up. Huni won with Vlad.
Yeah. We even saw Sejuani top, which was
Ooh,
that was
we gotta talk about that one.
that was a new thing. So some weird stuff up there. Did you guys have any thoughts on any of those that I mentioned, or go ahead?
Yeah, I gotta talk about
Sejuani crap. Ugh.
Sejuani top is the biggest freaking just like most confusing meta adaptation. Sejuani top with Ignite has actually been like fringe meta for like since last year, I think. People have been able to play it because they recognize how bursty she is even as a tank. So you can cheese some solo kills in lane, you can get a lot of lane prio, and your ganks are really potent, and then you're just a basic like whatever tank in the late game, right? You serve your purpose. But dude, in the durability patch, I mean, yeah, I get she does percent health damage, but like, dude, I swear to God, we didn't see a single Sejuani top actually use Ignite in lane. Like, not even to get close to a solo kill. They just didn't use it. Like just use it to pressure, right? Like if you're not gonna use it to kill somebody, just just throw that on there. Because
Yeah.
they were holding it for like 20 minutes until they got to team fight sometimes. And I think they were memeing on both the cast and on the co-streams. Oh wow, really nice would be to have flash right now so you could get away from this gank.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. We'll just feed the enemy Fiora a couple kills. That sounds fun, right? Like, okay, maybe Sejuani top into a good counter matchup, but blinding it when Fiora is one of the best champions of the game, that's just dumb. That's just like you're just not thinking. That's just
Yeah.
every Fiora giga stomped all of those Sejuani tops. Like even Impact when they won on Sejuani top, he looked really bad on it. He looked really terrible on it. He died in lane. He never used Ignite. It's just such a bait pick, dude. I
Yep.
don't know where it came from. It's just so random.
Somebody in the scrims in Creo definitely was popping off on it, and there was like, this is the most broken thing ever. Every time I've seen it in LPL and in LCS, I don't know if it was played in LCK that much. I don't recall, but I think it was.
It was played in LCK, yeah. I saw
it just
Keen
feels like
play it,
nonsense to me. Like you took a cheese pick and you made it like a hunt, like first pick, and I'm just like, what? Or blind pick ready? And I'm like, what?
No.
We all know how Sejuani works, right? Like, there's no way you blind pick this. This is like, I think she has good matchups. I play Sejuani a decent amount, but like, there's no way it's blind pickable, especially with Kale also being in the meta elsewhere in the world. And,
Kale,
like,
Yeah.
Fiora, GP, man.
like they're just
Some of
like,
the most
whoa, a
broken
free
champions in the
lane.
game. Like, what?
It's
Man? Like,
nonsense.
and it doesn't even have to be a free lane. Like, maybe you should, like, some of these Sejuani tops should actually try to go for kills, but they never do. They never actually try to trade and get the opponent low so that they can utilize their ignite. It just never happens. So
Yeah.
it's a
Some of these
combination of
players
it.
don't know how to play Sejuani, and it shows.
Yeah,
And I don't
it's
even know how that's possible.
such an easy champion. It's like such a just very straightforward. All right, I land my W and then I E them and I ignite and they're like almost all their HP is gone. Like you can do that at level 3. Just no one actually ever tried to do it. No, everybody just kept bouncing waves, shoving them right in, just giving them right back to Fiora. I'm gonna shove the wave. You're gonna shove the wave. We're both full HP. Oh, okay, we're at 3 items and I just got freaking one shot by by Fiora.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what were some of the other champions that you mentioned?
So I mean, top lane we did see Olaf, but
Oh,
only one
Vlad.
game. Vlad, I didn't think it was impressive to me, even though there was win on it. But yeah, I didn't really think. I mean, we did see Yone a couple times. One in the top lane, one in the mid lane. We did get to see Talia. Because we were talking about that too. So some of the champs that we thought would make it did make it. I think Alistair is probably a little disappointed that Kog'Maw didn't make an appearance, but
I think he
who
should
knows?
be.
Yeah.
I think that
So
champ is too good to not be shown,
yeah,
especially with the variations of builds. I do want to talk about Vlad because I mean, you and me, we're big Vlad players. We've
sure.
talked about Vlad whenever he shows up on this podcast.
Yep.
The 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 build right now, it was actually popularized by a Vlad one trick named Elite 500,
Yeah.
where when he goes into hard lanes, he goes Ignite, Ghost, Airy, the exact same rune setup. Um, but they're doing it in every single lane setup, and they're doing it to counter GP. But like GP is just too broken. Everybody knows GP is the just like just freaking Giga S tier, just the best champion in the game, like up there
Mm-hmm.
with Fiora, Kale, Zeri, Senna, right? So like Vlad is just not that good of a champion. Like he can be a good counterpick into GP when he's not the most broken champion in the game. But that's just not the case. I just don't think you should be giving GP over. Like sure you can be like, "Oh, it's an interesting counterpick because you can sustain against his Qs and stuff," but like the not having flash on Vlad, it really felt like it just ruined. No, not having both TP and flash, it felt like all these Vlads could never participate in fights because they're always getting kited. They're always getting CC'd right before they could actually get in. It felt like every time we saw Vlad, he would ult and just not be able to participate in a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that's not how Vlad works, right? You need to actually get in the middle and
Yeah.
Q and E people a couple times before they die, as Vlad, and getting just one ulti, one Q, one E like
It's not enough. Yeah.
for your whole draft, like for top lane counter pick, that just seems really just like just underwhelming. So I think that this like I think people really misunderstand the Elite 500 lane build where it's for solo queue where you
Yeah.
don't need flash, you don't need TP, but because you can win lane harder. And you know what Elite 500 is also doing? He's getting solo kills in lane with that loon setup
Yeah.
because he admits himself it doesn't scale well. You need to get ahead and get your proto belt early, so that you can actually like just one shot people. But if you don't get ahead with Ignite, Ghost, and Airy, you don't have you don't have a keystone in the mid and late game. You don't have Predator or Phase Rush. You don't have Flash or TP. He's just not a champion in the later stages. So I just
Yeah.
think people really misunderstand Vlad because I do think that he is better than what we've seen. He's a better champion than what we've seen. But people just
Yeah,
don't
he hasn't
understand.
he hasn't looked good. And a lot of times when I was watching, it just seemed like I think people were overestimating his damage with that setup too. Like I was like, dude, you're doing his full combo, and then you'd see them caught and they want to pool, but they're like, oh my gosh, I did no damage to this person, so they have to pool, and then they end up just dying after they come out of pool. Like there's nothing there. I do want to throw in one note about. Lucian Nami, that bot lane did not lose that combo. Played 4 times, won every single time. So I don't know exactly if it's a count. It did have a counter pick about half of the time, so 2 games. But it won against Ezreal Karma, which is another good bot lane combo. So thought that was pretty interesting that we did see. I mean, obviously it's nothing new, but just to see, it's nice to see a lot of these pairings, right? Because we see the Lucian Nami, obviously, the Ezreal Karma, the Twitch Yumi, which I know it didn't work well, but maybe we'll see a Cog Lulu and then Senna Tom Kench. I like that we're seeing kind of these combo bot lanes, you know, because it is interesting to see the synergies, because that lane is one lane with two people. And so the better it gets at like finding these kind of duo matchups to counter each other, I think that's going to be really interesting to watch. I'm sure Alistair will have a lot to talk about next time he's on. But yeah, I'll definitely save it for him. But is there any final thoughts? We've got about an hour and 35 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. Because I, like, for me, the person who said that there was nothing really hype coming into the split, I just had a lot to say. I know we all did, and it was fun to finally see it.
Too, so
yeah, super week. Yeah, so, but any final thoughts or anything?
Yeah,
okay.
Real quick, I think the tri-cast they had on the Liquid versus C9 game, that was legendary. I believe it was Captain Flowers, Kobe, and Mark Z were in that cast, and they were like saying some.
No,
you know,
it was Azale and Mark Z.
Azale,
on
sorry.
Vacation. Yeah.
And Captain Flowers, right?
Yeah. Flowers, yeah.
Okay, Captain. And they were saying some sometimes inappropriate for like sponsors or whatever things, like Corky's
the butt package.
Yeah,
dude, this is legendary. I was listening, I was cracking up. I think that just like we'll get into this another episode because we've already gone long, but like I think that that's the charm of esports, like just not being too serious and not taking yourself too seriously. Like,
yeah.
I think the casters have the more than enough capability to do this kind of cast and just be like kind of just like friends shooting the shit, right? Like our podcast is. But they're just not allowed to for the longest time.
I know.
I will say that someone asked on the Reddit there, like, oh, I hope that like Camp Flowers doesn't get in trouble for that. And then Jackie, I believe the new LCS commissioner, was like, no, we were laughing our asses off to we're lamowing about it. So
good.
Hey, that's better than whoever the previous commissioner was, where I've never heard from, and they just made bad decisions. So
yeah,
that's nice.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's really fun. I mean, it is so amazing to have the crowd back. You can feel the casters riding on the emotions. God, it's so amazing. Like the first game back, C9 versus EG, and you hear the crowd freak out when Fudge made that Fiora play.
Oh, that's so good.
That was just chills, man. That was just so amazing to witness and to experience. It's just like we just want to be there. Like we just want that. And
it's
so
the energy.
I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, it's the energy. It's transferable, and with the crowd there, it brings it into the casters. You can tell in their casting. And I just like that, because that's what the game desperately needed for a while, and it's good to finally be there. And I think that's why I did feel a lot more hype than I initially thought, was going to be possible when I came in. So I'm definitely excited to see that. One last thing before we go is just the pick'ems, right? So Mitchell forgot the first week, which means you guys are not too late yet. You guys can still jump in the Discord and join the pick'ems. I believe the week 2 form is out there. You just click on the link, pick out who you think's going to win, and this is an ongoing thing for the split. Appreciate Kimmer once again. Hit him up on Discord. He's the one that's running all of it, but it's gonna be a good time. I was gonna do predictions for the end, but we've gone pretty long, so we'll just hold it off. There's not really any good matchups, really.
We'll just slap them in the pick'ems, right? Or something.
Yeah, we'll just slap them in the pick'ems. But hopefully, if C9 gets their roster in, C9 versus 100 Thieves should be a good one, and that'll be on Sunday. So I'm definitely gonna check that one out. So if we get the roster. Well, that's going to do it for us. Thank you once again to Kevin and Mitchell for joining me on this podcast. Thank you for your wise insights. But until next time, enjoy your climb on the Rift. Try not to be too toxic, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Peace.